Hello everyone and happy Tuesday. I hope that you're off to a great week. So I can't believe that it's already October 21st. We are almost done with the month. If you weren't aware, in schools, October, I personally call it Everything Month because we celebrate so much. So beginning this week, we are about to get ready to celebrate Red Ribbon Week, which is Drug Awareness Week. We also celebrate School Violence Week, which was last week and this week. And at the beginning of the month, in New Jersey, we celebrate the Week of Respect. And the whole month is celebrated by nationwide as Bullying Prevention Month. Now, if you've heard my chats before, I personally am not a fan of the word bullying. The reason is because sometimes kids, they believe in a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, and if they're usually the target or the aggressor or the bully or the bullied, then they start believing that role and they just take it on for themselves as opposed to chalking it up to just not having a good day. So I like to say the word mistreatment or just state the facts as opposed to labeling something as bullying. But with that theme in mind, the book that I'd like to share with you today is by an awesome author. Her name is Tracy Ludwig, and the book is called The Invisible Boy. Now, it's really important sometimes we put a lot of attention onto the kids that are aggressors, again, that have a big personality, that are very loud and call a lot of attention to themselves, whether it be positive or negative. But we have to really pay attention to our youth, to our students, to our kids who are quieter in nature, who don't call a lot of attention to themselves, who sometimes fall between the cracks because they are so quiet. And it's really important for us to do so because one, we want to make sure that every child is heard and seen and feels important. And two, that can lead to a lot of sometimes even destructive behavior. So there's a difference between shy and between being unseen and unheard. And that is exactly how Brian, the main character, felt in this story. The illustrator does an awesome job, which is why this book is really good even for young kids, because even if they don't understand the words, the illustrator does a great job of showing how much Brian was invisible. Other kids whined, other kids shouted, but Brian went unseen and unheard, sometimes even by his teachers. So because he was unseen and unheard, he was usually the last ones not included in groups, the last one chosen for games, and he sat by himself in the lunchroom, as you can imagine, which even as an adult is a very uncomfortable and unwanted feeling. Halfway through the story, once we get the idea of what Brian was all about, he was a great illustrator, by the way, too. There's a new student who came from a different background than most kids, and his name was Justin. And Justin, one day, his first day of school, bought a lunch that was different to the other groups, the other kids, and other kids started maybe friendly teasing, but still unkind, joking about his lunch. And Brian, knowing the way that that felt, because he knew that that didn't feel good, he drew Justin, the new boy, a picture, and he said, "I thought your lunch looked really good." And Justin noticed how good of an artist Brian was. So because Brian was so kind to Justin, Justin began to include him in everything that he did. And Justin began being well liked by his peers. And consequently, he started including Brian, the invisible boy, into a lot of group projects and a lot of things that they were doing together. And by the end of the book, Brian didn't feel invisible anymore. And you can even tell by the illustration, he became seen and heard and not like he felt at the beginning of the story. And consequently, his pictures were also different, right? He came to color just like the other kids came to color. I love this book, not only because it has a great story, but because it talks about empathy and compassion. And those are two themes that sometimes are really hard, especially for young children and sometimes older children too. It's really difficult or challenging for them to understand. Really for them to understand how to look at things or put themselves in another person's shoes, how to look at things from a different point of view or a different perspective, because kids by nature, developmentally, they're egocentric. They just think me, myself, and I, right? So books like this really lead them to think as, how are others feeling in certain situations? And if they identify with the child or with the character, they can also see themselves that they don't have to stay stuck in that position, but they can grow out of that and flourish as well. I hope that you love The Invisible Boy as much as I do, and that you're able to find use of it in your settings, either with your own children or with your classrooms or counseling offices or any work that you do with kids. It is always my aim to help you learn, grow, and inspire others mindfully, and I hope that you've gotten something out of today. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.